Good morning. This is Jim at EasyPower. This will be our last refresher series before the holidays. So welcome to everyone. We're going to talk today about labeling and basically focus on whether or not the labels are serving their purpose, which is to inform of the danger. And I think, at least in some cases, there's room for improvement. And so what the subject here is focused on is how the EasyPower tools can help you enhance the labels and better serve their purpose. I'd like to start with a poll and see how everyone feels about specifically what information goes on the label, and especially in the case of consultants, whether or not you put your logo on the label for your clients. So I just want to take a second to kind of get some feedback on this. Now, the fact is that labels actually fall into a category where there are multiple overlying standards that pertain, and for starters, ANSI Z 535 has some specific requirements for all warning labels, and of course what we're going to be talking about primarily is going to be ArcFlash, and the hazard warnings that are related to ArcFlash are specifically covered again by requirements in the NEC, which is NFPA 70, and then specific areas of NFPA 70E. More specifically, the recent version, 2015 version, has made some changes about what can and cannot be included on a label. And we've talked about these in the past, so I'm less concerned about the details of what's on the label, but more to the point of making sure that the information is something that's pertinent and that workers can get information from it and retain or realize that it pertains to them. ANSI standards, Z 535 specifically calls out 4 signal words. And in the ArcFlash side of the world, the 2 most important are the fact that there's either a danger or a warning pertaining to the probability and the possibility of a worst case event happening, whether or not that could cause death or serious injury. So in all possibilities where there is an ArcFlash danger, the ANSI standards would imply that at least you need to have a warning, and that at some point, and this is somewhat arbitrary, I think in our standard level we designate 40 calories where there's a definite potential for death, and in which case the warning label needs to have the term danger on it. Now, some of this is going to be site specific, some of this is going to be policy dictates by the company owners. They may want not to have any energized work if the danger exceeds a certain level, all of which goes to the potential or the need for having ArcFlash incident energy calculated. And then when you look at what needs to be on a label, and again this is specifically NFPA 70E, any system or element which has the potential for maintenance, inspection, or repair while it's energized should have a label. And that includes switchboards, industrial control panels, panel boards, meter socket enclosures, MCCs, and any one of a number of other devices that would be the minimum list. In some locations there's also a requirement or a suggestion that other pieces of equipment be labeled just for general information, because if the cover is opened or could be opened, the danger would exceed a certain level. So the question becomes then, what additional information would be useful to have on the label? And so I'm throwing this poll out there for some feedback to kind of guide where I emphasize the use of the tools or the demonstration of the tools. So in your opinion, what information would be useful as far as additional information on the label itself beyond the minimums? And it's interesting as we kind of look at this, the one thing that specifically is, I guess, called out as not being allowed is the specification of a specific PPE category if you're calculating instant energy. And so while most of us believe that it would be nice to know what the PPE requirements are, the most recent version of NFPA 70E says you shall not have incident energy and PPE categories on the same label. So what the standard template looks like from in a 2015 version is to have the warning label at the top, the warning banner, which would include the signal word, the fact recognizing the specific danger involved, which is arc flash and shock, and then if you're going to calculate incident energy, which is what we're showing here of 0.5 calories per square centimeter of working distance, then it is not permissible to have a PPE category on the same label. So in this particular case, what NFPA recommends or suggests is that you refer the operator to a table in where the PPE is described, and that the operator or technician is responsible for layering up to the energy level that's required. So the complaint is, or the suggestion is, well, since no one's going to carry around a copy of NFPA 70E, what does this really do? And that goes back to the question about how pertinent is this, or how useful is the label that has this kind of requirement, and whether or not we're going to be compliant if we put more information on this than what that NFPA 70E stipulation dictates. The other issue is, even if we did put the PPE on here, and this label has been up for 3 years or 4 years, and people have looked at it multiple times, are they really aware of what that means? And are they aware of any more recent information that could affect them as far as working on this hot bus? So what the tool allows us to do is make modifications to this label and customize specifically for specific information pertinent to the equipment, this bus, and or the status of this bus, and then additionally put information on there like my company's logo if we needed to work on this, or if a problem were to arise, how to contact me if we needed to go in and do work or make a repair. All right, so the first order of business is how to make sure that this is compliant. Second order of business is to put a logo or some kind of contact information, potentially even the date of the study, and then what other information that could be maintained. So the question I would pose is, what if we could actually update that information or that label with current data on the bus and literally have this information available as soon as it was recorded? Among that might be, say, the current or the most recent maintenance date, any problems that were noticed during the last scheduled maintenance or the service date. Say we had a copy or the ability to display a copy of the one-line diagram to anyone that approached that label. So bottom line is, we have the ability, especially with today's technology, and as technology kind of advances quicker than some of us can appreciate, what other linkage can that label provide as we go forward? One of the things I'm going to be showing or displaying is the ability to put a QR code on the label. So a QR code was actually developed back in 1994 by Japanese companies wanting to track vehicles on a production line, and it needed to be updated at each stage. And what this particular code represented involved all the devices or operations that had been applied to that particular vehicle, and consequently could be monitored from anyone that was able to scan this code on the device. Today, it's more broadly used than that, especially in a market availability mode, where you can see a QR code in a magazine or a display on TV and be able to scan it with a portable device, and this will represent a URL on the internet that you could go to and receive additional information, primarily marketing information that might be context sensitive with wherever you are when you saw this particular code. So we're going to see that the EasyPower tools allow us to put this on the label and discuss kind of what that does for us in and going forward. I guess I wanted to show the next. And so what I've done, you'll see when we get into the display here of the tools, is that we put the QR code on there, and in this particular case I'm going to associate it with a specific piece of equipment. And within the EasyPower database, we have the ability to assign a device code to every bus or every element, and this linkage could be utilized then for this purpose of expanded information. So let's jump into this and see where this all goes. All right, so let's go to a typical ArcFlash label. The label editor is available in the tools. Once we've completed our one-line diagram, we go into short circuit focus, fault all the buses, look at the incident energy, and then display the ArcFlash hazard spreadsheet, which is, I'm going to click on the Arrange for ArcFlash at the top of the screen or press F8. And that shows me the ArcFlash hazard report and the one-line diagram. The significance of this report, besides the fact that it's mandatory as part of a study, it shows all the elements that go into the calculation of the incident energy, which is what ultimately goes on the label. So each of these elements is available, and what we're going to take now as we use the template is the bus name, the trip device that's used for the calculations, the incident energy and the working distance, and then ultimately the voltage for the shock protection. So as I select the ArcFlash hazard report, I click on the label icon at the top, which brings up the print preview screen. Now this shows me, based upon what template I've selected, what the label is going to look like. The templates are over here on the left. So I'm showing a multicolor 4x6 2015 version, and in my particular case I've modified that to show device code. Any of these templates you can edit and modify, customize, and that's what we're talking about today. Is you then save that template for your specific needs, and you can put any manner of additional information on there. So let's start with, let's say I wanted to put my logo on here. I want to go to the label designer. So built into the tool, in addition to the printing of the label, there's also the ability to customize the label. So I'm going up to the label design icon at the top left. And again, we're showing all the different templates that are available. And then as we go through each bus, we're showing how the bus will look, or that label will look for that specific bus based upon the information coming up. Now, if we wanted to put on, let's say, just the date on every label for the this particular study, we might put in today's date, if I can remember. And as we do that, it'll end up being displayed down here at the bottom. And then I can pull it down as text that's been entered on each. And so this is a comment that we can make, and it literally goes on every label. If we want to do a selective, so the next thing, let's say I want to include besides the date, is my logo. So I have my logo saved as an image file, either a JPEG or a GIF or TIFF. And we'd select Insert Image on the top right of the focus banner. And as we do that, it puts in the last image that was selected. So this ends up being the exclamation point that's detailed by this template properties up here on the right. This whole right-hand sidebar is literally the text of the logic that's driving this label population. And so in the case of an image that we've selected by this rectangle, we can either take by default the templates that are there, or we can go find another image any place in our file. In this particular case, I'm looking under my computer under the logos, and I'm going to put in an EasyPower logo. It looks like that. And it looks like that's kind of what I want it to be. I can have other information there or not. And as I kind of reselect it, it looks like I need to So the little box at the bottom is showing me what the location is going to be once I get through with it, which are these position numbers here at the top right. So if I want it to be a little higher or a little lower, I can do that with these controls. All right, so now I've got the date and my logo. Next thing I want to look at is how I can expand the information that's available, and that's where the QR code comes from. What we've done in this particular example is I've associated, and again, if I select the QR code, I put it in by selecting the QR code up here on the top right, put it in the location that I want it to reside, and then here is where I'll describe the properties of that particular element. So instead of putting another one in, I'm going to go back to the one I've been using, which is this one here. And what I've done, I've described a URL that's a phony website that we put in behind the EasyPower firewall, and in this case I've associated with device code. So as we go to any particular bus, that bus's device code will be part of this URL. Now if you can scan this particular computer display, this particular QR code will take you to a 3-element spreadsheet which will allow you to enter numbers. One of our customers wanted an operator to be able to approach a panel, scan the warning label, and then enter the current voltage or power at that particular bus. And in this particular case, this spreadsheet would record it, and literally he would have an updated record not only of the technician visiting the location, but what the power ratings or power status of that particular bus was. So in this case, it was a data collection mode. This, if I go to bus 2A, if you were to scan this label, this QR code, it will take you to another dummy website. In this case, though, we're describing specifically the text of NFPA 70E table H3B so that the operator can see exactly what the description of the PPE is that he is required to put on for this particular panel to open this panel. Other suggestions is to be able to take this to a one-line diagram, and by linking this to the one-line diagram that includes this panel, it could be a one-line diagram from EasyPower that shows where all the currents are. That might be another helpful linkage. Another case would be a description of the most recent preventive maintenance report, and have an operator be able to tell what was reported, if there's anything perceived as far as malfunction of this particular device or bus, and be able to modify his actions accordingly. So the bottom line is, rather than just be a flat fading label that was good at one point in time and may or may not pertain to today's information or condition of the bus or the system, you literally can have a daily update in terms of how this particular piece of equipment fits in with the rest of the system. Could it be incorporated with things like tag out, lockout? It could be incorporated with preventive maintenance schedules. It could be incorporated with even route reporting stations. So this actually opens up. I've had safety managers get excited, maintenance managers get excited, and the facility managers get excited because of what they could do with this ability to put on a custom code. Now, because we haven't talked too much about the other capabilities, but because we can add any variable in this modification box, we can make this conditional on a lot of other parameters that are built into the EasyPower database. And if you have a particular need or a case that you'd like to discuss as far as, well, what if I wanted to do this? By all means, contact tech support at easypower.com, and we'll see if we can help you out with coming up with the logic equation, if you will, that'll display the type of connection that you want. Now, I need to make a point here. This is an EasyPower website. More than likely, well, two cases can this. If I'm a maintenance contractor for a company and I'm the one that's maintaining the information on the company's electrical database, then I might want this to be my website behind my firewall because I'm the one that's updating the information on this bus. Consequently, more contact information might be important in terms of my phone number and or email address. If I were a company that had this maintained internally, I could put this behind my website if my facilities people wanted to maintain this information. So this has really no bearing on EasyPower at all. It's just part of the tool to expand how this kind of label can be used. So anyway, I wanted to share this with you. What we've talked about essentially is how to make modifications, and quite literally any part of this label can be modified. For instance, if I highlight the warning text here, you can see what we're showing is by default the text says warning. If we exceeds 40 calories, the text is going to say danger. So any element of this label can be not only customized, but can be made conditional upon the information that's coming from the ArcFlash hazard spreadsheet. So hopefully that was valuable information. It's pretty much, I think, overlooked in some of our discussions, but at the same time, if we better understand what you're trying to achieve within your maintenance system, I think there are ways to incorporate specifics and ways to customize the label to not only extend your ability to maintain and inform your employees, but actually to make the system safer and more functional and exceed, if you will, the minimum requirement of NFPA 70E, because now you're going above and beyond as far as educating the employees. I appreciate everyone attending. By all means, I direct you to other information on the easypower.com website. And before we sign off, I was going to check to see if there's any other information. Certainly, you're welcome to go in and review any of the tutorials that have been recorded and stored on the website at any time. And I look forward to talking to everyone after the holidays. Have a safe and happy holiday season.